Welcome to Tazeen TV, the space for healing and growth and transformation. Now, I'm joined today by Ashok Gupta. Ashok has dedicated his life to improving people's well-being and helping them achieve their potential. He's been teaching meditation around the world for over 15 years. Through his global e-clinic, the Gupta Program, he treats and supports thousands who struggle with conditions such as ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and multiple chemical sensitivities. Now, Ashok has spent many years researching the brain neurology of emotions and linking well-being tools with science. He has published medical papers on the basis of stress-related illnesses. Through his YouTube channel, Ashok Gupta TV, Ashok also works with companies around the world teaching courses in leadership, time management, and personal development. Finally, his latest work on the meaning of life TV was developed to support transformation in others. It aims to transform the individual, the community, and the world. Ashok, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Tazeen.
Ashok, let's start with healing. Talk me through your own personal journey.
Well, many years ago, when I was at university, I suffered from a stress-related illness called ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. And I think that was the real beginning of my journey into understanding more about myself and then supporting others. So I remember my darkest moment, it really was when I couldn't get to the bathroom. I had to crawl to the bathroom. That's how ill I felt. And you can imagine, it's sometimes when you hit rock bottom that you actually want to make a difference in your life, to make a transformation. And that really was the start of then my journey in personal healing. So I researched the illness, read medical papers, wrote medical papers myself, and finally managed to get myself better from the condition. Then I set up a clinic to support others. And like any situation, when you go through it yourself, you're in a much better place to actually support other people's healing as well.
Tell me about what you found. I mean, we seem to have a complete rise actually in a lot of physical symptoms and ailment. And I'm really curious about the mind-body-spirit connection and what you found in your research on that.
Well, you mentioned an increase in these conditions, and I think definitely over the last 20 to 30 years, we've seen a rapid rise in stress-related illnesses, especially fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, sensitivities to our environment. Now, one of the reasons is pollution. So there is a kind of physical recognition of pollution and chemicals that we're exposed to. But the dominant factor is the levels of stress that we are experiencing as individuals. And some of that is due to the pressure of modern life. So the pressures from external situations, but also our internal pressures. So how much do we compare ourselves to others? We want to be richer, we want to be better looking, we want to be more popular on YouTube or whatever it may be. There's so many pressures that are self-generated now. So I think comparing ourselves to others, and secondly, we're eating foods which don't have the same nutrition as they did in previous generations. Yeah? We're exposed to far more media. So our brain is much more stimulated than it ever used to be, and it's not designed for that. So if you think of our evolution, we were designed to essentially be living in small communities and fishing villages or hunter-gatherer communities where we were able to be a lot of time in nature, eating natural foods, getting a lot of daylight. And suddenly in the last couple of 100 years, we live in boxes inside, in front of a computer recently, getting stressed. And our system, our mental, physical, emotional, spiritual makeup isn't designed for the way that we're living in modern society. And that is what is increasing these stress-related illnesses that people are experiencing.
So, I mean, meditation has come up as something that you teach, and I want you to sort of share how meditation effectively can help manage all of these overwhelmed emotions that come up with this increased connectivity that we've been discussing.
Definitely. So previous generations, let's say we were farmers, hunter-gatherers, we would be spending more time naturally in a meditative state because we would be in nature, we would be connecting with nature, we would be playing with our children, we'd be spending a lot more time naturally in a meditative state. But in the modern world, we now need to make sure that we take time out to actually be still and to not be connected, to not be in that stressful state. And so regular meditation is the quickest and easiest way of disconnecting and reconnecting. So there's a disconnect from the outer world and a reconnect with the inner world.
So I guess it's like recharging your own battery.
Exactly.
Your own inner software, if you like, rebooting it every single day.
So we think of our phones, right? So whenever we are talking, interacting, working, getting stressed especially, we drain that energy of the battery. Yeah? And for most of us, the only time that we charge up that battery is actually when we sleep at night, which is often when we plug our phone in. But actually, that doesn't fully charge the battery, which is why you can wake up some mornings and still feel exhausted, because the mind is still active at night through the REM sleep, through the dreaming state. You've had a lot of stress. So actually, regular meditation calms the mind at a much, much deeper level. And that's what we all need each day. And that's why we're becoming more and more stressed. We don't have that decompression time. So conscious relaxation, rather than unconscious relaxation, which is what sleep is incredibly important for our system. Just like we have a shower every day to clean the outer body, to clean away the dirt. That inner shower each day cleans away the stresses and strains that we've accumulated over the previous 24 to 48 hours. And meditation is not just about calming the mind, right? So that's the first most obvious benefit that people get. They think, okay, I feel calmer now. But it also allows us to connect with our deeper spiritual nature. Yeah? Our identification is normally with the mind. So the mind is saying, I want this, I want that, I'm stressed about this, why can't this person behave like this? We're constantly engaged in the outer world of reactivity. Yeah. Yeah. And we're trying to get happiness. We're trying to change that outer world to become happier in some way. It's a losing battle. It will never work. The biggest trick enacted on human civilization is this idea that somehow, by manipulating and changing the outer world and our situation and the people around us, it's going to make us happier. And that's what we spend 99% of our time doing. Whereas actually that phrase that we all have heard of but don't live, which is happiness comes from within, is to be taken literally, to say, every day let's switch off from this outer craziness that we're involved in, go inwards and connect with the stillness, which is already there. We're already calm and peaceful inside. We just never spend the time to connect with it.
I've noticed also in a world where we're all forced to multitask. I mean, I sort of laugh that historically there's been this joke that women are better multitaskers than men. Well, I can hands on heart say that even as a woman, multitasking today is virtually impossible because the attention is so fragmented and dispersed and distracted in multiple directions at any one moment. And so I've definitely found a need to gather, to be gathered, if you like. And I've also noticed in my own sort of increased practice of meditation that I find where I put my attention gradually shifts, and I'm able to really discern where my priorities need to be. Is that something that you yourself and your clients have experienced?
Meditation has so many incredible benefits. So the one you described there is about when your mind is calm and still, you make better decisions, right? Your creativity increases. Suddenly the process of everything is better. So the analogy I use with my clients is, if you're typing on a keyboard, the faster you type when you're really stressed, the more mistakes you make. So then you have to keep using the backspace because you're making more mistakes as you type. Whereas if you actually type slower, you can actually type probably more words. So in the same way, when we slow down, when we're coming from a calmer, stiller place, life becomes easier. We actually become more efficient and effective in life. So it's not just about calming the mind, it has a material impact on our efficiency. So from a whether it's a corporate perspective, a work perspective, a personal life perspective, there are so many benefits to be gained. And I think secondly, there are insights which are gained. So step one of meditation is becoming calmer, feeling happier. That's great. The second step is we start becoming more aware of our minds. So most of the time, we are our minds. So we're locked with our minds and our minds are controlling us. Yep. So there's that vibration and the mind is saying, I want this, I want that. And we're identified with it. Meditation is the ability to say, let me take a step back from my vibrating mind, my constantly busy mind, and observe that mind and say, how interesting that my mind says this or wants this or is getting stressed by this. So the identification changes, and then we think, wow, over here, I can be calm and still, and I can observe what my mind is doing without getting involved in it. And in that observer position, I have insights as to what are my shadows, what are my negativities, what are my fears, and then it becomes easier to let them go and transform. But to try and transform when you're locked in it, it's like a piece of wood in a bucket of water going round and around and around. The stick has to come out of that swirling water to be able to observe the busyness.
In Islam, it's interesting, we talk about ya shahid, reaching the state of shahid, being the witness, and the ability to be able to become a witness to ourselves is part of the work, actually. And I'm curious about two things. One is, how do we take our beautiful practice and put it into everyday life, those really dirty moments, Ash? A previous interview we did with Katie Appleton, she mentioned Jack Cornfield's work where he talks about the ecstasy, and then after the ecstasy comes the laundry. And that for me has been a place that I get really stuck in, you know, my own laundry. I had a real life example yesterday, for example. I'd done my meditation in the morning, I felt really calm and still, but then I had multiple stresses that were then leading to deep emotional triggers, where the triggers were just representing themselves as this stress body. And my son in that moment was going through his own stress. And so there in the moment, I wasn't able to go into the witness. I went into an ugly form of reactivity with someone I love dearly. So how, you know, it could be like a boss that triggers off something within you, or a work colleague that's just really pissed you off. How, you know, what have you found is the magic in the moment that can build to that true lasting transformation?
The first awareness that can help us is that people and situations trigger our unconsciousness to make us more consciously aware. So people and situations are designed to bring out what is unconscious within us. So the first thing is to welcome it. So when it happens, most of us resist it and say, oh, I don't like this, I wish it would go away. And that resistance increases the stress and the pressure and the reactivity of the mind. So the first thing is that welcoming, saying, yes, this situation, just like any stress in my life, is designed to help me transform in some way. So there's the welcoming of what is happening, which most of us don't do. Secondly, and it does require awareness, is recognizing that we're all works in progress. And in that moment, what works for us? And you say, is there a magic bullet? Is there a simple rule that we can all follow? Look at the previous times that you were able to overcome that situation. What did you do? Now, for me personally, a deep breath in that moment. So when we have small children, we often say, right, count to 10 before you talk, you know. In the same way, what is it that is going to bring a bit of space for us to not react in that moment? Sometimes it is a deep breath. And when we sigh, that is the body's natural way of attempting to bring us into the present moment. When we go, like that, we naturally do that. So in the same way, can we bring ourselves into the present moment by taking a deep breath in? Noticing where the tension is in our body and breathing it out. And your children will probably think, oh, what's mommy doing? You know, but it doesn't matter. They can do that with you. They might help. So it's firstly welcoming the situation. Secondly, what tool helps you in that moment become less reactive? So for some people, it's walking out of the room for a moment. For some people, it's a couple of deep breaths in. For some people, it's literally just smiling and noticing and being aware of what is going on in my body right now. For some people, it's becoming aware of that present moment, and becoming aware of their senses. What can they see? What can they sense? What can they smell? That then brings someone into the present moment. So that's the second step, is finding a space to be calm. Thirdly, choosing again. So we say, right, I want to react in this moment. I want to shout at this person. I want to do this. I want to do that. And thinking about the consequences of what will happen if you do that. You know, how often have we had an email that we've sent in anger and then thought, oh no, I can't believe I sent that email. You know, it happens to us. So that third stage is, right, what do I choose to do differently now? I've opened up a window of space for me not to react. How do I choose to respond instead? So going from a reactive mind to a responsive mind. And the word react and create. What's the difference between the word react and create? It's the see. Yeah. So we change the way we see things. A bit cheesy, I know. So we change the way we see things, and then we start creating and creating response instead of reacting. And realizing we're works in progress, not telling ourselves off if we haven't done it, recognizing we choose again, we choose again. And that is the transformation. That is the work, is noticing those responses, those unconscious responses, and choosing again, choosing again.
No, it's interesting because increasingly what I've really witnessed for my own experience is the need to become almost like a spiritual warrior, where setting up the day is becoming increasingly non-negotiable. So like having to get up and start the day with a meditation almost then sets the tone for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, yes, I guess it is the understanding of what works for one person, as you've identified, might not work for someone else. But something I wanted to just, again, bring up with particularly your patients that you work with is potentially John Sandro's work of the mind-body prescription on how some of the ailments like back problems or some pains that turn up are actually linked to unprocessed emotions. Mm-hmm. So, can you just share a little bit more about the sort of mind-emotion-body connection?
Yes. So there are often two sources or reasons that we transform and have experiences which are physical illnesses. One can be unresolved emotion. Let's say it's bereavement. Let's say it's unprocessed fear from childhood. Certainly it can transform itself into some kind of physical pain, which is a trigger for us to process those unresolved emotions. Secondly, a physical illness can be as a result of a pattern. So it's not necessarily an unresolved emotion, but it's an emotional pattern that we're stuck in. So many of my patients who get ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, they're often people who are very conscientious, put other people's needs first, and push beyond their limits. So they push and they work hard and they work long hours, and that means that then the body says, you can't do this anymore. You can't sacrifice yourself for the sake of achieving or pushing beyond your limits. So the illness becomes, once again, a trigger for our awareness to say, you're lost in unconsciousness in your life, and actually this illness is to make you more aware of what you weren't aware of before. So there can be two reasons. One is repetitive emotional reactions, and that's something we can be aware of and work on. But secondly, yes, there are some instances where it's actually just unresolved emotions from our past.
So with meditation, obviously that's going to start helping the healing journey. I, for example, use one of your meditations, which really helped me with ongoing emotional patterning to do with my left hip. Right. So it's kind of prolonged pain. But what else for you works? What else can help really go deep into the healing journey?
I gave this analogy of a dove. So how does a dove fly? A dove flies and it needs two wings. The first wing is the relaxation, the meditation. So what are we doing in our lives to regularly calm our system at a general level? So that's why I prescribe regular daily meditation, ideally 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. But for most people who are starting out, even just 10 minutes, I'm sure we can all manage 10 minutes in the morning. So regular meditation practice or relaxation practice is very important. And to support that relaxing of the nervous system, having a good diet, making sure we exercise, and all those good things, I think are important under that first wing of the dove. So that first wing of the dove, I called relaxing the nervous system. So regular meditation, living well, eating well, exercising. The second wing of that dove I call retraining. And that's what we've just spoken about, which is when we're reacting, when we're in that reactive mode and we're getting stressed, how do we change that response? So that is ongoing awareness of what our mind is doing, observing it, and choosing again. Yeah? Through a deep breath in, then shifting our perspective and saying, how do I choose to respond in this situation? What does my higher self say about this situation? So that's the second wing of the dove. And both wings work together, because if you aren't regularly relaxing your mind, then when you come to these situations, of course your mind is naturally going to be reactive. But by regularly meditating, you've already pre-trained your brain. You've said, right, by relaxing my mind, when I go into those reactive situations, I'm already going to be calmer and less reactive. So it makes it easier to do the second step, which is retraining the mind. Yeah? And at the same time, if you only retrain your mind, or only meditate without retraining your mind, then of course you haven't benefited from the insights that have come from the meditation. So both work together to transform. And finally, what does a dove need? It needs a direction to fly. Most people are once again stuck in that unconsciousness of the way that they're living life. There's not necessarily a direction that they've set. They haven't connected to their life purpose. So when we deeply connect with that life purpose, and the tail feathers of the dove are now aligned with the head, then we start flying, then we start moving in a direction. Who am I right now, and who do I choose to be? And that could be in relation to our relationships, our career, our spirituality, our overall life purpose, having that direction. So I call that re-engaging with joy. So the 3 R's of the Gupta Program, or the 3 R's that anyone can benefit from, are relaxing our nervous system, so having a good overall lifestyle, retraining our minds through this choosing again of our responses, and finally, re-engaging with joy. What is our heartfelt calling in this lifetime? Let's discover it, let's be aware of it, and let's live it.
How beautiful. And I'm just curious, those people who, let's say, engage with the Meaning of Life TV, what sort of feedback have you been getting from people who, have engaged with your 3 R's?
Well, we've had lovely feedback on it, and we're really proud of this app and this program. So most people's response is that it's first of all made them happier. So by just watching the videos and doing the meditations as part of the experiment, they felt calmer inside, they felt happier, and then secondly, meaning. They've started having a deeper understanding of the meaning that they choose for life itself. If we live life without some sense of meaning that we choose for it, then it feels like a pointless existence. And okay, some may say we're floating on this rock, hurtling through space, and there's no meaning to life. Even if that's the case, let's find a meaning for our life. And I think most people can agree that it's probably got something to do with love. Loving ourselves, loving other people around us, being of service to humanity. I think those are common values now that we all share as human beings. So having a sense of meaning in life is what people have come back with. And finally, purpose. Purpose is, what is my personal raison d'etre? Why am I here? What gift am I here to give to this planet? Right. And people say such a joy has come by going through the experiment, watching the videos, and discovering a deeper meaning and purpose. And for some people, that's been doing some charity work. For some people, that's been starting a new business. For others, it's been being the best example that they can be to their children. But suddenly, that direction, those tail feathers of the dove have become stiffer. They've had a direction now.
I guess it's sort of taking it from states of reactivity to living with intention, living with a full awareness of your values. I mean, I've often found actually the beauty comes from the really dark places. I know that a lot of projects that have given birth have actually come after periods of like a dark night of my soul. And actually other things have opened up that I never thought were possible, but they happen in a very effortless way, but yet it's almost like being a camel that needs to be tethered, and just being fully aware of where you're being tethered to, if that makes sense, which for me, in my world, is God. As long as I'm in remembrance of God and I keep remembering that there's something and the source, the higher power of reality, the me, it's almost like you then know your own part, where you can comfortably be the drop in the vastness of the ocean and be really happy and content with your place in it.
Yes. And one of my favourite quotes is from Rumi, actually, when he says, "A wound is where we let the light in." And it is when we go through our darkest moments, those dark nights of the soul, where everything feels lost. It might be a deep depression or a bereavement. In that moment, if we just be aware that that situation, that person, has come to us to let the light in, to help us transform to the next level of our evolution, then we start using those dark nights of the soul for something personal and powerful, a transformation. And then we become a gift to society and the people around us. So it's when we recognize that, often the big shifts in people's personal lives or big new projects which are started are often as a result of those deep depressions. And that's what I went through when I had my illness as well. So it's recognizing that each situation is coming to us for a reason. We may not see the reason right now, but if we see all of life like that, then it doesn't bring us down, it lifts us up.
That's right. And I think once you sort of click that everything is unity, like everything is happening in the right time, in the right proportion, in the right place, the stress sometimes, or that anxiety, or the internal conflict can slowly dissipate.
Yes, and I call that living from heartfelt surrender. So most of us live a life where our fists are clenched and what we think is, right, life is okay now, but I hope nothing bad happens. I hope that, financially I'm going to be okay, and I hope that my family is going to be okay. So we live from a place of fear. And when we live in that place of unconscious, continual background fear, we aren't living our potential. We're stressing out our system, and then we become reactive. That heartfelt surrender, which I think you're talking about, is that idea that I know that challenges are going to come. I'm going to allow those challenges to come into my life, and I'm going to live with that heartfelt surrender, that there is a higher force looking after me, that there is a reason why I'm taking this journey. And in that surrender, when those challenges come, we're able to welcome them. We're able to say, I'm okay with this. This is triggering my transformation. This is taking out my unconsciousness.
It's almost like welcoming them. I mean, I had a friend, Susan Treadgold, whose interview will bring through this space soon. And she went through breast cancer, and for her, now when things happen, she gets really excited about any knockbacks of like, oh my God, what am I going to learn from this? And I really love that attitude that dis-ease brought her.
Cheerful acceptance of what is so. That is our first step of the journey. Rather than resistance to what is happening, a cheerful acceptance of what is so right now. The second stage of that evolution is that heartfelt surrender. So acceptance is something we do once a situation has already come, and then we think, right, I've got to actively accept this situation or accept this person. The second step is, even before that situation has come to me, I live life from a heartfelt surrender. Let it come. Do your worst, because I am connected to something higher. I meditate. I'm connected. I'm able to ride these rough seas, whatever happens. And there's that warrior strength, that spiritual warrior strength that I think is powerful for all of us.
I mean, I just want to sort of get your take on, again, this concept of spiritual bypassing, because something that I was very naive about actually in the early days is that you suddenly reach this, it's like reaching a state. I think because we're so used to this linear track of progression in the Western world, which is if I do A and B, that will get me to C. And once I get to C, I'm done. Yes. Right? Yes. Whereas what I've had to relearn about the spiritual path is that it's infinite and it's almost like you're traveling around a circular vortex.
Yes. I call it a spiral.
Right.
So with a spiral, we'd like to think that we progress upwards like this, but it is a spiral. So a bit of knowledge that we thought we understood 5 years ago, suddenly we come back to it, spiral back to it, and we need to hear it again, and it suddenly has relevance, because at that time, we either didn't understand it, or we didn't need it, or we hadn't integrated it into our lives. So it's easy to hear information and knowledge, but transforming it into wisdom requires that repetition of this knowledge, that repetition of growth. And secondly, spiritual bypassing is one of the biggest challenges that people on any kind of spiritual journey really need to become aware of. And as you say, you've experienced it, I've experienced it in my life, where you've experienced a state of consciousness where you're calm, you're relaxed, you're connected to spirit, and you think, wow, I've done it, I'm amazing, I'm on the path to enlightenment. And it's recognizing the difference, and this is something that the famous author Ken Wilber talks about. There's a difference between stages of consciousness and states of consciousness. So you can have a temporary state of consciousness where you feel that incredible ecstasy and connection, but we all are moving through stages of consciousness. So each of us are on a journey, and we don't know what that journey looks like. But to bypass is simply to say, I've done it, and any reactions that I have, oh, well, that means I'm living from the heart. I'm living the way that I feel. We have people in spirituality who are saying, I feel like this, therefore it must be correct. But they are not differentiating between emotions and heartfelt intuition. They are confusing the two.
Right, and also it's this kind of naivety that you're expected to always feel good all the time. I mean, it's just really relearning that actually I'm going to still be living with my ego and all my negativity for my whole life. But the choice is whether I'm going to choose to keep reacting with them, and can I consistently transform so that they're still there, but perhaps they're being harnessed in a different way. Also naively think that I'm never going to have pain again, you know? Whereas actually it's trying to get comfortable with the fact that actually there will be sorrow, there will be grief. We can't be expected to be happy 24/7. And I think social media in particular, Ashok, has been really negative from that point of view. It's putting these sort of false idealist images out there that life has to be joyous and amazing 24/7.
Yes, so I think one of the contributors is Instagram, Facebook, this idea that we present ourselves with these perfect lives, and we see other people's perfect lives, and we compare their external with our internal. And we think, oh, I don't feel like that, but I must present even this perfect life as well. So we start bypassing those emotions. So that's one contributor. The second is, as we mentioned earlier, being glued to our screens means we're not processing our emotions. And this spiritual bypass is incredibly important in the modern world right now. We are thinking from authors or spiritual teachers that we must always feel happy because we're doing the meditation, we are reading the books, therefore we must behave in a certain way and feel a certain way. But what that does is it represses those emotions even deeper to the point at which they then explode out. And you've hit the nail on the head. It's not about trying to be happy all the time. What it is about is awareness of what is going on and a disidentification. This is the key difference. So that means, yes, my mind is unhappy. Oh, look, my mind is sad. But I'm not going to try and change that or push it away or repress it. I'm simply going to be with it and observe it and nurture it and love it like I would a loving child. So it's recognizing, even in our parent-child relationships, our child will be unhappy some days, illogically, irrationally, most of the time, and they'll be upset. We, as that calm, loving observer or witness, have to be a space where that child can play out those emotions. And so it is the same with us. We've got lots of little, almost like children running around in our minds who are relics of our past reactivity, relics of our childhood, that need space and time to be healed and nurtured. So we let them play whilst we speak lovingly and kindly to our minds to help heal these unconscious reactive parts of ourselves. And when we look at it in that way, then we don't need to spiritually bypass. We recognize that this is a process of transformation. And just when we might have a year when we feel enlightened and we're in that space, brilliant. But recognizing that there may be suddenly challenges that will come along the way, and that's okay.
Well, something you touched upon earlier when we spoke was how when you do start your journey to try and awaken a more conscious level of existence, you will also, as you start to make that intention towards the light, the darkness, the shadows, the negative energies will come up even more. Can you just share with our viewers some more about that?
Yes. So just like you charge your phone up, right? So you've charged your phone up to 100%. Yeah. Now, that phone is now ready for action. It's been re-energized, recharged. And then it's ready for us to spend hours a day looking through things, or it gets dropped on the floor a lot or whatever. That's because it is, once you've developed a certain level of awareness, a certain level of consciousness, then the mind says, right, you are now ready to release the next layer of your impressions. Now, what I mean by impressions or conditionings are those old habits. Right. So they could be desires and wants. They could be resistances to life. They could be negative beliefs or limiting beliefs about our lives. They could be unresolved emotions from our past. They could be reactions to people when we keep reacting in a certain way. What will happen? Life will say, okay, you've recharged your batteries to a certain level. Now you're ready to let go of that reactivity, that response to somebody, that emotion you didn't let go of from 40 years ago. You're ready to now release that. And I'm going to bring people and situations into your life that will re-trigger that belief, that negative response, so you can become aware of it and transform again, and again, and again. And so, once again, we go back to that phrase, people and situations come into our lives to make us more aware of our unconsciousness.
So again, it's all happening as divine intends it, that perfect plan for each of our souls.
And we can treat it like a game, right? It's when we take life too seriously. We're attached. We're fists clenched going, I want this, I want that. What about my money situation? What about my family? When we recognize and treat it more like a game, we enjoy the game. It's like, let's say, I mean, my nephews love playing Monopoly, right? And I have one nephew who, win or lose, he's perfectly happy. He's enjoyed the game. Right. But I have my other nephew that as soon as he starts losing, he gets upset, he starts crying, right? We've all had that experience as parents. That's like me. That's like when you start losing, right? And, he gets really agitated. And we have to say, look, it's only a game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's the taking part. Yes. And in the same way, when we stop taking life so seriously and we start enjoying the journey and recognizing that, right, just like people who play a computer game, why do you play it? Why do you play this game that's so challenging? Because there's an enjoyment in getting better at the game, learning a new skill, getting to that next level. So if we can play, virtual reality games or computer games, spend hours on that, which isn't even real, and enjoy the challenge, why can't we not treat our own lives in the same way?
Ash, a little bit about time management, because we talked about this increased mental world of connectivity. For me, time management has become the most important thing, I have to confess, on a weekly basis or monthly basis. So you train executives. What are your top tips, and how do we come out of, as we saw in the video, reactivity and go into a more planned process?
Time management, as you say, has become even more important in the modern world. That personal effectiveness is being compromised because we're connected all the time and we're reactive working. So most people, they'll be sitting at a desk at work, or say they're self-employed at home. Their phones will be triggering, they estimate, every 5 to 10 seconds with either a new email, a new WhatsApp message, a new Facebook message. So the number one thing, first of all, we need to do is stop that reactivity based on these alerts. So we need to switch off all these alerts, right? So the only thing that we should really have is our phone. So when the phone rings, we pick up the phone. But all other alerts we need to switch off to stop that reactive working. Yeah, that's the most important thing. And second, as you say, most of us are reactive working based on the messages coming in. Right. And that reduces our productivity because most of the messages that come in are actually what I call the gravel. So I use this analogy of rocks and gravel. So rocks are the big productive things that we want to do in life that actually get things moving. But the gravel is responding to emails, responding to phone calls, etc. And most of us are just continually doing gravel. We're not expanding.
Well, we're just constantly reacting to someone else's agenda.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and people will treat you the way you allow yourself to be treated. So if they know, I'll send them a message and they will respond in 5 minutes, they will keep expecting that. Instead, there is a shift to proactive, planned schedules where we spend and carve out time to do the big rocks. So the big rocks are the big pieces of work, the things that are actually going to expand our career, or actually are the thinking work where we need time and space to enact our creativity. And our creativity only comes out after 15 to 20 minutes. So we need 15 to 20 minutes of really deeply engaging with something to get into that flow state to really allow the ideas to flow and come, right? So this means carving out half-an-hour chunks. So the science shows that we can work for 20 to 30 minutes for a concentration span, and after that we need a break. So throughout our mornings especially, let's switch off all distractions and carve out half-an-hour chunks with 5-minute breaks after them, with defined outcomes of what we'd like to get done in those half-an-hour chunks. And you'll be amazed at how your productivity skyrockets just with that one simple step. So there's so many different changes we can make, but those are a couple of things I think people can put into practice straight away.
Ash, thank you so much again for joining me. Now, for anyone watching that wants to learn more, where do they go?
Okay, so we have 2 main programs. One is the Gupta Program, and that's designed for people who have some kind of chronic illness that their doctor hasn't been able to help. That might be some pain syndrome, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, etc. And that is guptaprogram.com. And that's an online video training course which goes through how you can heal from various illnesses. If someone doesn't necessarily have a kind of chronic illness but just wants to understand more about meditation, we have a free not-for-profit app which they can download called the Meaning of Life Experiment. That's on App Store and Play Store. And on there, it's a 30-day journey into yourself and your soul. So there you have 30 meditations, 30 videos, and it's a way of discovering more happiness, meaning, and purpose. And they can find that at themeaningoflife.tv.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much again, Ash, for joining me today. I could chat to you for hours because it's been extremely informative and helpful for me. So thank you.
It's been a wonderful experience, and good luck with everything. Thank you.